안녕하세요.
The sky over Seoul was painted in hues of deep blue, city lights flickering like distant stars. At the towering glass facade of Han Group's headquarters, employees rushed to wrap up their day. But on the topmost floor, the night had only just begun for one man, Kang Ji-ho, the formidable CEO. Tall, with piercing dark eyes and an air of effortless command, Ji-ho exuded a presence that left no room for argument. Wealth, power, and prestige had it all. But beneath the stoic exterior lay a heart weighed down by duty. His life was dictated by board meetings, financial reports, and a father who saw him as nothing more than a pawn in a grander corporate scheme. To the world, he was untouchable, a man who had everything. Yet, he felt like he had nothing at all. Tonight, however, someone interrupted his carefully constructed world. "Excuse me, sir." A soft yet determined voice broke through the silence of his office. Yoon Hari, a diligent employee from the marketing department, stood before him. Her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her bright eyes held a mixture of nervousness and defiance. She was not supposed to be here. No one dared to intrude on his private space unless summoned. Yet here she was, gripping a folder tightly as if it were a shield. "I know I'm not supposed to be here, but..." Ji-ho arched a brow, setting down his pen. "Then why are you?" His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. His sharp gaze studied her, assessing whether she was foolish or fearless, perhaps both. Hari hesitated before holding out a folder filled with reports. This was left out of today's presentation. It's crucial for the upcoming merger. Ji-ho took the folder, his fingers briefly brushing against hers. The slightest contact sent an unfamiliar jolt through him. He glanced at the papers before his gaze returned to Hari, who stood her ground despite the intimidating air he exuded. Most employees cowered under his scrutiny. She did not. That alone made her different. "You could have sent this through email," he remarked, his curiosity piqued. "I could have," Hari admitted, then smiled a simple, genuine smile. "But I figured you wouldn't have read it." For the first time in years, Kang Ji-ho found himself speechless. His days were filled with sycophants and opportunists, people who measured their words with caution, speaking only what they thought he wanted to hear. But here stood Yoon Hari, an ordinary employee, challenging him in the simplest yet boldest way possible. As Hari turned to leave, Ji-ho called after her, "Yoon Hari." She stopped, looking back at him. "Yes, sir?" A small smirk played on his lips. "Next time, just barge in. You've already broken the rules once." Hari blinked, then laughed a soft, musical sound that lingered in the air even after she was gone. Left alone, Ji-ho stared at the door for a moment, longer than necessary. He had met countless people in his life, yet something about this brief interaction unsettled him. It wasn't annoyance. It was something far more dangerous. For the first time in his meticulously planned life, Kang Ji-ho felt a crack in his perfectly built walls. The days following their unexpected encounter were filled with an unusual tension that neither Kang Ji-ho nor Yoon Hari could ignore. The once indifferent CEO now found his thoughts drifting toward the woman who had dared to defy convention. He had encountered countless employees, but none had ever left such a lingering impression. Something about her presence unsettled him, challenged him. From her desk in the marketing department, Hari tried to convince herself that the meeting had been nothing more than a fleeting moment. Yet, she could not shake the feeling that their brief exchange had changed something. Whenever she passed the executive floor, she felt the weight of unseen eyes watching her. The shift became undeniable when an urgent meeting was called for all department heads. The massive conference room was filled with murmurs as high-level executives took their seats, including Ji-ho, his sharp gaze scanning the room. When Hari arrived, she quickly found a seat in the back, assuming she would remain unnoticed. She was wrong. "Yoon Hari!" Ji-ho's deep voice rang out, cutting through the noise. The room fell silent. A rare occurrence, employees held their breath, uncertain of what was about to happen. Rai's heart pounded. "Yes, sir?" His expression remained unreadable, yet his words carried weight. "You will present the revised marketing projections." Her eyes widened. That wasn't her responsibility. She looked toward her superior, who hesitated before nodding in reluctant approval. Hari swallowed, then gathered her notes. This was a test. Steeling herself, she stepped forward and took a deep breath. Her voice, though nervous at first, gained confidence as she presented the data with clarity and precision. Ji-ho's gaze never wavered from her. When she finished, the room remained quiet until Ji-ho leaned back and spoke, his tone neutral. "Good work." A murmur spread through the executives. Praise from Kang Ji-ho was rare, and for it to be directed at a mere employee, unheard of. As the meeting concluded, Hari gathered her papers, intending to leave quickly. But before she could, Ji-ho approached her, close enough that she could feel the weight of his presence. "You handled yourself well," he said, his voice lower now, meant for her ears alone. She met his gaze, something flickering between them. "I only did my job, sir." Ji-ho smirked slightly, then continued doing it. "I'll be watching." As he walked away, Hari exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. What had just happened? One thing was clear. The lines between them had begun to blur. The air in Han Group's headquarters had changed. Whispers followed Yoon Hari wherever she went, eyes watching her with curiosity and speculation. It had only been a few days since the conference room incident, but rumors spread fast. The CEO had taken an interest in a low-level employee. Hari tried to ignore the hushed voices and stolen glances, keeping her head down as she focused on her work. But it became harder when an unexpected email landed in her inbox. From Kang Ji-ho. Subject: Dinner meeting. Come to my office at 7 p.m. We have matters to discuss. Her breath caught in her throat. Matters to discuss? She knew better than to assume, but the implications of being alone with the CEO after hours sent her heart into a frenzy. She considered declining, but a second email arrived before she could respond. "I expect you to be there. KJ." Hari sighed, running a hand through her hair. There was no choice but to comply. At precisely 7 p.m., she stepped into Ji-ho's vast office, the city's skyline twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A table had been set near the window, a dinner setup, complete with wine and elegantly plated dishes. Hari hesitated. "Sir, is this a business meeting?" Ji-ho, seated with his jacket draped over his chair, gestured for her to sit. "A meeting requires a clear mind. You skipped lunch today, didn't you?" Her eyes widened. How had he noticed? "You should eat," he continued, pouring her a glass of water. "It's part of your job to be in top condition." Hari bit her lip, reluctantly sitting down. The atmosphere felt dangerous, not in the way that implied harm, but in the way that whispered of something undeniably intimate. She picked up her fork, focusing on the meal instead of the man across from her. Silence stretched between them before Ji-ho finally spoke. "You don't seem surprised by the rumors." Hari set her fork down. "It's not my place to be." Ji-ho leaned forward slightly. "And if it were?" She inhaled sharply. "Then I'd say they're mistaken. You're my boss, that's all." Ji-ho studied her, his gaze unreadable. "If that's what you believe, then I won't correct you." The unspoken words lingered between them. He wasn't denying it. As the evening progressed, Ji-ho remained composed, but something had changed. He had crossed an invisible boundary, one he had never crossed before. And Hari, despite her better judgment, felt herself stepping toward it too. The moment Yoon Hari stepped into the office the next morning, the weight of unspoken words pressed down on her. The previous night's dinner with Kang Ji-ho had left her with a storm of emotions she had no way of sorting out. Had she crossed a line just by being there? Or had he been the one to step too close? As she walked toward her desk, hushed voices and knowing glances followed her. The rumors were growing louder, and despite Ji-ho's composed nature, Hari knew that this wasn't something that could go unnoticed for long. Not with the board members, not with his family. "Hari," a familiar voice pulled her from her thoughts. Min Seo-jun, her closest colleague, approached her desk with a cautious expression. "You need to be careful." She frowned. "Careful of what?" Seo-jun glanced around before lowering his voice. "People are talking. You and the CEO. It's not just whispers anymore. Some executives are starting to question why you're getting special treatment. Ha, Rai's stomach twisted. There is no special treatment. Maybe not from your side, Seo-jun's side. But from his? That's a different story. Before she could respond, a firm voice interrupted them. Yoon Hari. Her breath caught as she turned. Ji-ho stood a few feet away, his expression unreadable, but his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. The entire office fell silent at his presence. The chairman has requested your presence, Ji-ho said. Ha! Rai's blood ran cold. The chairman? Kang Ji-ho's father? Seo-jun gave her a warning look, but there was no escaping this. Taking a steadying breath, she nodded. Understood, sir. The atmosphere in the chairman's office was suffocating. Kang Dae-hyun, Ji-ho's father and the founder of Han Group, sat behind his grand desk, his presence commanding even in silence. Ji-ho stood beside Hari, his posture rigid. Yoon Ha-ri. The older man finally spoke, his voice slow and measured. You seem to be at the center of quite a bit of attention lately. Rai's hands clenched at her sides, but she kept her head bowed respectfully. That was never my intention, sir. Hyun's eyes flickered to Ji-ho. Ji-ho, I don't need to tell you how dangerous this is. There are already discussions among the board members. Your engagement. I have no engagement. Ji-ho cut in coldly, his jaw tightening. The chairman exhaled sharply, his patience clearly waning. Then consider this a warning. There is no place for distractions in this company. If this becomes an issue, I will resolve it myself. Hari knew what that meant. She wasn't blind to the power dynamics at play. If the chairman wanted her gone, she would be. Ji-ho, however, took a step forward. Defying his father in front of her, in front of anyone, was dangerous, but he did it anyway. With all due respect, Ji-ho's voice was low but firm. I decide what's an issue. The tension in the room thickened. The chairman's gaze darkened, but Ji-ho didn't flinch. For the first time, Hari saw just how deep this battle ran just between them, but within Ji-ho himself. As they left the office, Rai's heart pounded. She wasn't sure what frightened her more, the chairman's warning or the realization that Ji-ho wasn't willing to walk away from her. And she wasn't sure she wanted him to. The confrontation with the chairman left a heavy silence between Ji-ho and Hari. As they walked back through the long corridor, Ji-ho's face remained unreadable, but his grip on his watch tightened, a small tell that betrayed his frustration. Hari hesitated before speaking. You shouldn't have done that. Ji-ho stopped in his tracks. Done what? Gone against your father like that. He's right, Ji-ho. This, whatever this is, it could ruin you. He turned to face her fully, his expression sharp. And what about you? Do you think I'll let him ruin you? Hari swallowed, unsure of how to answer. She wasn't naive. The chairman had made it clear if she became a problem, she would be removed. Ji-ho's defiance only painted a bigger target on her back. But before she could respond, Ji-ho's assistant, Park Sung-min, rushed toward them. Sir, we have a problem. Ji-ho exhaled sharply. What now? The board has called an emergency meeting. The shareholders are questioning your leadership because of the rumors. Rai's chest tightened. It was happening faster than she had anticipated. The boardroom was filled with tension. Every executive and shareholder sat stiffly, their eyes on Ji-ho. His father was absent, didn't need to be here. His influence was already weighing on them. An older board member cleared his throat. CEO Kang, we understand that your personal affairs are none of our concern. However, when they begin to affect the company's reputation, they become our concern. Ji-ho leaned back, calm despite the obvious hostility. Are you suggesting my personal life is affecting the company? The man scoffed. Don't play coy, Ji-ho. The rumors are everywhere. Investors are beginning to ask questions. And if this entanglement continues, we may have to take measures to protect the company's interests. Hari, seated at the far end of the room, felt small under their scrutiny. She had no right to be here, and yet she was the reason for this meeting. Ji-ho's voice remained steady. Are you suggesting that my ability to lead this company is determined by who I choose to have dinner with? Silence. The board exchanged looks. Another shareholder spoke. We're suggesting that an unapproved relationship with an employee creates instability. If this continues, we may have no choice but to call for a leadership review. Hari stiffened. They were threatening his position. Ji-ho's eyes darkened. I see. He stood, buttoning his jacket with slow precision. Then let me make one thing clear. My leadership has never been in question until now. If you think my personal life is a weakness, you are mistaken. His gaze swept across the room. However, if any of you believe I am unfit to lead, you are welcome to cast your vote at the next review. Silence. No one spoke. Ji-ho exhaled and turned toward Hari. Let's go. She hesitated. Ji-ho. Now Hari. She had no choice but to follow. As they stepped out of the boardroom, she grabbed his wrist. What are you doing? You just challenged the entire board. Ji-ho met her gaze. I told you, I won't let them control my life. Her heart pounded. And what if they take everything from you? His eyes softened. For the first time, she saw something raw and vulnerable in them. Then at least I'll know I fought for something worth losing. Ha! Ri's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just about defying his father or proving himself to the board. This was about her. And she had no idea what to do with that realization. The fallout from Ji-ho's confrontation with the board was immediate. The media swarmed with speculation, investors were wary, and the pressure from his father grew unbearable. Yet despite all the chaos, Ji-ho remained unwavering. Hari, on the other hand, felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, caught between the man she had fallen for and the reality of their situation. She had always known that love between them would never be easy, but she never expected it to be this impossible. That night, she found herself in Ji-ho's private penthouse, staring out at the city lights while he stood behind her, his presence as overwhelming as ever. You're quiet, Ji-ho said, stepping closer. Tell me what you're thinking. Hari hesitated before turning to face him. I'm thinking about how much you've already lost because of me. Ji-ho's jaw tightened. I haven't lost anything. She shook her head. The board, your father, the company, they're all against you. And it's because of me. His hands found hers, gripping them firmly. No, Hari, it's because of them. Because they think they have the right to control my life. But I won't let them. Tears stung her eyes. Ji-ho. Marry me? Ha! Ri's breath hitched. For a moment, the world stopped. His eyes, dark and steady, held no doubt. Let's stop fighting this. Let's stop running. If I have to rebuild my life from nothing, I'll do it. But I want to do it with you. Her heart ached at the sincerity in his voice. Ji-ho, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. A single tear slipped down her cheek as she nodded. Then yes. The wedding was small, intimate, and yet it felt grander than any event Ji-ho had ever attended. Because for the first time in his life, he was standing in front of someone who loved him not for his name, not for his wealth, but for who he truly was. Despite the scandal, despite the pressure, Ji-ho made his choice. And to his surprise, many of the investors and board members who had once doubted him respected him more for it. His father, though silent, no longer interfered. As Hari stood before him in her white dress, he realized something. Power could be taken, wealth could be lost, but love was worth everything. When he kissed his wife, he knew. This was the life he had fought for. This was the family he would protect. And no force in the world could take that away from him.